Hi Professor, my name is Shubh Jala and my student number ends with 844. On the assignment guidelines, I will be discussing whistleblowing laws, notable whistleblowings, incidents and leadership profile in the following countries. First is Hungary, second Germany and third South Africa. So starting with part A, video 1A, let's focus on Hungary whistleblowing laws. So, introduction to Hungary's whistleblowing framework. Here, Hungary has established legal frameworks to protect whistleblowers and address public interest disclosure, in which first is Act CLXV of 2013 on complaints and public interest disclosure. Enhancement. This act enhanced in 2013 regulate the handling of complaints and public interest disclosure. What's the scope of this act? Applies to the both public and private sectors, allowing individual to report misconduct anomalies. Provisions mandates organization with more than 50 employees to establish internal reporting channels. What's the enforcement? Overseen by the Commissioner for Fundamental Rights. And effectiveness of this act is, while it provides a foundation of whistleblower protection, its practical effectiveness has been subject to debate. And the other act is Act Act XXV of 2023 on complaint, public interest disclosure, and rules related to reporting abuse. So, adopted in 2023, this act aims to enhance whistleblower protections in line with the EU whistleblowing directive. Scope of this act is require organizations with over 50 employees to operate a whistleblowing system, emphasizes confidentiality and protection against retaliation, and enforcement ensuring compliance with EU standards for whistleblower protection. What's the effectiveness is intended to strengthen the whistleblowing framework, though its practical impact is yet to be fully assessed. So here, that's the part 1A. Yep, so let's focus on 1B. The second country on the list for whistleblowing laws is Germany. So, Germany has long lacked a comprehensive national law for whistleblower protection, relying instead on fragmented protections under employment or labor law. But in 2023, this changed. They have introduced a new act passed on July 2023, that's a Whistleblower Protection Act. This law finally brings Germany in line with the EU whistleblowing directive, so which applies to public and private sector companies with 50 plus employees, government bodies and certain regulated industry. The act requires organization to establish internal reporting channels where whistleblower can report work wrongdoing safely and confidentiality. So what's the key feature of this act is protect those who reports on violation in public procurement, money laundering, product safety, environmental protection, consumer rights. Reports can be made internally or externally. So whistleblowers are protected from retaliation like termination, demotion, or blacklisting, and civil and criminal liability. Companies failing to comply with this law can face fines up to 50,000 euros, effective from seen as an positive step. Challenges include implementation consistency, cultural barrier. It's too early to evaluate real impact, but the act creates legal clarity for the first time. That was the first B for the Germany whistleblowing law. Let's start with the video 1C with the third country named as South Africa. Let's focus on the whistleblowing laws. So here, introduction to South Africa's whistleblowing framework is they established legal mechanism to protect whistleblowers, recognizing their crucial role in combating corruption. So, Protected Disclosure Act was introduced is in 2000 and implemented in 2000. The PDA is the cornerstone of the whistleblower protection in South Africa. The scope of this act is to apply to both public and private, allowing them to disclose information about unlawful or irregular conduct by their employers or colleagues. What's the protection because of this law offers safeguards against occupational determinant such as dismissal or harassment for employees who make protected disclosure. Effectiveness of this law is while the PDA provides a framework for protection, challenges remains in its practical application with reports of whistleblower facing retaliation. So third is proposed reforms and recommendations. States capture commission recommendation. In this, in this, the response to high-profile corruption cases, recommendations have been made to attempt legislation to enhance whistleblower protection, including offering financial incentives and immunity from prosecution. So, what's the government initiative in this? In June 2023, the Department of Justice released a discussion paper inviting the public comment on proposed reforms to strengthen whistleblower protection. Now, let's focus on video 2A, which is based on whistleblowing incident in Hungary. So, one of the most high profile whistleblowing cases in Hungary involved András Horváth, a former employee of Hungary National Tax and Custom Administration, also known as NAV. So, in 2013, Horvath went public with explosive allegations. He claimed that NAV deliberately turned a blind eye to massive value added tax fraud. According to him, the Hungarian government and tax authorities knowingly allowed company to commit large-scale fraud, costing the states billions of frosting in taxes losses annually. He publicly stated that the system is set up to support organized crime and it does not work in the interest of the taxpayer. Horvath provided documents and internal emails to back his claim, which were shared with Transparency International and investigative journalists. So, despite the seriousness of these claims, the government denied all the accusations. Instead of protection, Havas faced senior campaigns, senior campaigns in the media, threat of prosecutions, and legal harassment. Third, the lack of institutional support, both legal and personal. Although some public protest and petition supports him, there was no significant policy response or institutional reforms to address his concern. The EU took note of this situation, but domestic enforcement did not act strongly. His case highlighted the lack of effective whistleblower protection in Hungary at the time, even under law like Act CLXV of 2013. So that was the incident of whistleblowing in Hungary. Now let's focus on video 2B, which is focused on whistleblowing incident in Germany. So this case is known for the Wirecard scandal 2020. So in Germany, the Germany's most infamous modern financial scandal, the Wirecard collapse, could have been avoided if whistleblower warning were taken seriously. A fintech company offering digital payment solutions considered a German tech success story marketed itself as the European PayPal reached a peak valuation of 24 billion euros in 2018 listed on Germany's DAX index. So, the scandal in 2020 Wirecard admitted that 1.9 billion euros missing from its account like never existed. Whistleblowers and investigative journalists has raised red flags since 2015 but were ignored. Employees reported falsified accounts, fake subsidiaries, third the money laundering schemes in Asia. So instead of acting, German regulations defended Wirecard and even filed criminal complaints against journalists who report on the fraud. Here, CEO Marcus Braun was arrested. COO Jan Marsalek failed the country and remains on the run as of 2025. So, whistleblower treatment faced retaliation, legal threats, and the public smear campaign. No whistleblower came forward for publicly at the time due to fear. The impact of this incident is shook trust in Germany's regulatory and corporate governance system. Second, pushed lawmakers to introduce stronger whistleblowing protection due to this incident. So this is the incident in the Germany happened. Let's focus on Chusi, which is whistleblowing incident happened in South Africa. This case known as Babita Deokaram, health sector corruption whistleblower. The tragic death of Babita stands as one of the darkest examples of the risk whistleblower face in South Africa. Babita was a senior official at the Gauteng Department of Health. She uncovered and reported fraudulent contracts related to COVID-19 PPE procurement worth millions of trade, raised alarm internally, prompting investigation into financial misconduct. So, on August 23rd, 2021, she was shot and killed outside her home, a murder linked directly to her whistleblowing. Was the reaction on this her assassination shocked the nation? President Sriley and civil society condemned the act. However, the case exposed deep flaws in witness protection, whistleblower safety protocols, government's failure to shield trust tellers. What's the broader implications of because of this? South Africa's PDA Protected Disclosure Act was criticized and inadequate. The Zondo Commission State Capture Inquiry later recommended legal reforms, financial support, and psychological care for whistleblowers, immunity provision, and safety guarantees to the whistleblowers. So, at last, Babita's legacy lives on in advocacy for better whistleblower laws in South Africa, but much work remains yet. So, that was the incident happened in South Africa at that time. So, now let's focus on 3A Hungary's leadership profile. So, for Hungary, I have selected Prime Minister Viktor Orban as the focus of my leadership profile. He has been one of the most influential political figures in the country for over a decade, shaping Hungary's domestic and foreign policies with a distinct and often controversial style. Orban has served as Prime Minister from 1998 to 2000 and again from 2010 to the present. So, I choose the Orban because he is at the center of Hungary's political landscape. His leadership has significantly influenced the country's democratic structure, legal reforms, and international positioning with the EU. He is admired by some of the visionary nationalists and criticized by others for leading Hungary down an authorization path. These contrasting views make him a fantastic subject to evaluate from a leadership ethics perspective. So let's break down the characteristics and leadership trait according to the assignment rubrics. So as for the vision, Auburn's vision is rooted in national conservatism, Christian values, and anti globalism. He advocates for illiberal democracy where state and traditional values are prioritized over liberal democratic norms. He emphasized Hungarians' identity and independence from foreign influence, especially the EU. The point about integrity, it's controversial. Critics argues Obran has used his position to consolidate power and diminish checks and balance. He is being accused of weakening the judiciary, limiting press freedom, and creating a centralized media controlled by allies. Supporters view his method as pragmatic and in Hungary's national interest. Whether Obran's show integrity largely depend on one perspective. Defenders see him as unwavering and patriotic due to all this. So, setting a good example, he promotes a disciplined and traditional image. However, accusations of chronisms, corporation, corruption, and government overreach contradict the ideal of ethical role modeling. While Obran sets a clear example in upholding his ideas, his disregard for pluralism and dissent weakness the precision of ethical consistency. Was the clear goal of Obran? Obran policy consistently focuses on restricting immigration, strengthening state control over institution. Even his critics acknowledge the Obran's is highly strategic and goal oriented, maintaining a consistent direction over many years. So he also encouraged others by motivates political allies and followers, especially through emotional charged nationalist. And however, he discouraged dissent within the party and broader Hungarian society. Obron encourages loyalty but discourages ideology, diversity, limiting innovations and dialogues. So, demand accountability and responsibility part. The publicly Obran calls for responsibility in families and national life, yet transparency in his own governance has been questioned. While he expects accountability from others, critics argue he shields his inner circle from the same expectations. So, the challenges authorities is frequently challenges the European Union policies, judicial ruling, and human rights framework. He positioned Hungary as a sovereign voice against what he called brutal plutocrats. He isn't afraid to defy global or regional institutions, a trait admired by nationalists but alarming to democratic watchdogs. So the provides ethical guidance to followers. In this, he appeals to traditional morality, family values, and religious identity. However, many of the government actions such as anti-LGBTQ legislations and supervisions of civil society are considered ethically regressive by human rights advocate. So last, Obron provides moral leadership but only within the narrow ideologically conservative framework. So now let's focus on 3B, the Germany's leadership profile. So here I choose Angela Merkel, former chancellor, served as Germany's chancellor from 2005 to 2021, making her one of the longest serving leaders in modern German history. Her leadership has been pivotal to shaping both German and European politics. So, what's the leadership analysis on my behalf is vision emphasizes stability, European integration, and a strong economy. Advocate for science driven policies, especially evident during the COVID 19 pandemic. Her integrity, known for her pragmatic and cautious approach, maintained a reputation for being methodological and well prepared. Setting and a good example demonstrate a low profile, unpretentious lifestyle, avoided scandals, and focused on policies over personal publicity. Her clear goal promotes renewable energy through the Energy Bendy policy, committed to European unity and managing the Eurozone crisis. What her encouraging other policy is fostered coalitions, governments necessitating collaboration across party lines, encourage women's participation in politics. That's the main encouragement from her side. Demanding accountability and responsibility, held ministers and officials accountable for the portfolios, managed crises by taking responsibilities at the federal level, challenging authorities. Initially underestimated, she rose to challenge established party figures, asserted Germany's position within the EU, sometimes opposing other major powers, providing ethical guidance to followers, stood firm on humanitarian issue, notably during the 2015 refugee crisis, promoted democratic values and the rules of laws, internal locus of control, exhibited self-reliance, often making decisions based on personal conviction. She also trusts her scientific background to inform policy decisions. Machiavellian traits is skilled in political maneuvering, maintaining power through strategic alliance, known for her ability to outmaneuver political rival quietly. Now let's focus on 3C, which is South Africa's leadership profile. Here I have choose Julius Malema, leader of the economic freedom fighter. So, the founder and the leader of economic freedom fighter, known for his fiery rhetoric and radical left-wing politics, Malema is one of the most influential and controversial political figures in the country. His leadership style is unique, populist, and often controversial, which makes him a compelling subject for ethical leadership analysis. What's the reason of choosing him? Is I choose Malima because he represents a new generation of African leadership that challenges traditional power structure and fight economic injustice. However, his method and rhetoric have also sparked significant ethical debate. He is both praised for championing the poor and criticized for divisive, sometimes inflammatory actions. So, what his vision, Malima core vision is economic emancipation for black South Africans, particular the poor and working class. He advocates for the land exploration without compensation, nationalization of mines, banks, and key industries, free education and healthcare. His vision stems from deep inequality rooted in South Africa's apartheid past. He believes true freedom will only come through radical economic information. About integrity, Malima's integrity is frequently questioned. He has faced multiple allegations of corruption, including issues with the threatening family trust and elite tender fraud. Supporters argue that these accusations are politically motivated. Critics, however, view him as someone who does not always live by the anti corruption value he preaches. Third, the setting up a good example. Malima portrayed himself as a champion of the poor, often wearing red overall in parliament to symbolize solidarity with workers. He uses powerful speeches to amplify marginalized voices but is also known for verbal attack, walkouts, and disruption in parliament. While his symbolism is impactful, his aggressive tactics often blur the line between courageous dissent and political hostility. Fourth, clear goals. Malima and the have well defined radical policy goals. Economic justice, wealth redistribution, and decolonized education are the part of these radical goals. The His clarity of purpose energized followers who felt left out of South Africa's post apartheid prosperity. Fifth, encouraging others. Malima is highly motivational figure who large crowds with powerful speeches. He encouraged political participation among youth, students, and disenfranchised population. Despite ideologically difference, even opponent acknowledge his influence in encouraging political engagement, demanding accountability and responsibility. Sixth, he constantly demand accountability from the ruling African National Congress. Ironically, while Malima insists on accountability from others, he has not always been as open to scrutiny about his personal finances or legal issues. Seventh, challenging authority. He thrives on contraction, which energizes his base but creates frictional in national dialogues. Eighth, providing ethical guidance to followers. He offers bold ethical message to those who feel ignored by the system but often alienated others through inflammatory conduct. Ninth, internal locus of control. Malima relies heavily on his internal belief, which is both his strength and his vulnerability. Tenth and the last one, Machiavellian traits. He plays the political game with sharp instinct, often turning crisis into moment of influence. So this is the leader profile of the South Africa's Malima. So let's focus on the last video. Whistleblowing and the leadership, are they aligned? So based on my analysis of whistleblowing laws, incidents, and leadership in three different countries such as Hungary, Germany, and South Africa, I will now explore whether whistleblowing can be seen as a leadership activity and also reflect on how whistleblowers and ethical leaders intersect and where they diverge. So, firstly, what is whistleblowing? Whistleblowing is the act of exposing wrongdoing, whether it's illegal, unethical, or harmful, usually within an organization or government. It is often done at great personal risk and usual without the formal authority or platform of leadership. But despite not holding titles, whistleblowers take action that can shift system. In many ways they exercise informal leadership. So here is the what is leadership in the ethical context. So leadership is more than holding a title. It is about having vision, acting with integrity, inspiring others, creating change through influence, not just authorities. Ethical leaders guide people towards what is right, even when it's difficult. So, when whistleblowers act from a place of moral responsibility, are they not leading? So, let's compare side by side. So, as the attribute whistleblower and ethical leadership, on this basis, we can differentiate on them. So, on vision, whistleblowers see unethical conduct and act to stop it, whereas Ethical leaders define a future based on values. On the base of integrity, whistleblowers choose truth over safety or convenience. As of ethical leaders act consistently with moral principles. On the base of accountability, whistleblowers hold others responsible and ethical leaders take responsibility for their actions. On base of courage, whistleblower risk retaliation, job loss or worse can be happen to them, whereas ethical leader make hard decision despite opposition. In the last moral guidance, whistleblower raise awareness of wrongs, whereas ethical leaders guide followers to do what right to do. Both roles require more clarity and courage. The difference is often that whistleblowers work alone while leaders are followed. So, here are the insight from my three countries that I have choose. So, first from Hungary, is Howard exposed massive VAT fraud at HAV. He faced backlash, legal threats, and zero institutional protection. Whereas Obran leadership is decisive and strategic, but critics say it stifles democratic institutions and suppresses dissent. In Hungary, Howard filed the ethical void left by political leadership. His actions demonstrated integrity even if the leadership didn't. In Germany, Wirecard case and Angela Merkel. In the Wirecard scandal, whistleblower and the journalist exposed one of the Germany's largest financial fraud. Merkel, as chancellor, was widely respected for his scientific, rational, and ethical leadership. The contrast between Merkel leadership and the regulatory failure in Wirecard shows the strong ethical leadership at the top does not guarantee ethical institutions unless supported by strong system. Third and the final, the South Africa Bobitas and Julius Malema. Bobita blew the whistle on PPE fraud in the health department, but at the same time was assassinated for it. Malema challenges authority and fight for economic justice, but his ethics are consented due to divisive heuristic. Babita showed moral leadership where political structure failed. Her courage and sacrifice symbolize what ethical leadership should look in action. So, why whistleblower are fact leaders? They initiate change even when system resist. They inspire others to question injustice. They often create public awareness, shifting societal views. They may not seek for power or followers, but they lead through example, just like the best ethical leaders do. So, when leadership and whistleblowing conflict, in many organizations, leaders are focused on protecting reputation. Whistleblowers are seen as troublemaker. Power structure punish rather than protect them. This conflict shows that when ethical leadership is absent, whistleblower became the only moral compass. So, at the last, the conclusion overall defines whistleblowing is leadership. In my view, whistleblowing is not just compatible with leadership, it is a form of ethical leadership. It's from the margins. Whistleblowers stand up when those in power stay silent. They risk everything not for personal gains but for justice. As we have seen in Hungary, Germany, and South Africa, whistleblowers often demonstrate more integrity, courage, and moral vision than former leaders. The world needs both whistleblowers and ethical leaders, and when they coexist, really change become possible. So that's what the whistleblowing and the leadership is all about. Thank you.